freedom fighter like Mumia Ajamu. Secondly, I want to thank the Mumia Coalition for inviting us here today, but also keeping the fight for Mumia alive. I don't have a whole lot to say. I mean, my comrade covered it a lot. Malcolm, I was with him on the trip. And I think the message that I got most from what Mumia had to say was for us to be creative and more imaginative in how we fight this. He made the point that we're not getting enough new people quick enough, and that we need to use culture more to get these people, to politicize people. So, you know, that's really what the whole scope of us meeting with Mumia. Due to unforeseen circumstances and one of their prayers, who was supposed to go with us, he didn't make it, but it was just me and Malcolm. But he told us to, you know, definitely support the coalition, definitely support what Pan Africa and the rest of the people that are supporters are doing. But he also said to, you know, be creative and for us to put a lot of support behind M1. And he had a visit before with M1 a couple of months ago where they talked about taking the campaign in a more cultural direction to get at young people specifically, black people specifically, and you know, oppressed people in general. So that's what I have to say about that. But in terms of the Oscar Grant case, you know, keep your eyes open about what's going on. November 5th, they will sentence Johannes Mezerly, who pulled the trigger, killing Oscar Grant. November 5th is also the day where John Burge, who was torturing people in Chicago in the 80s, he wasn't brought up on torture charges. He was brought up on perjury because he lied about torturing people. So he wasn't caught up on torture charges, but on charges of lying. So that case will also, the verdict will go down on the 5th. And the 5th is also the day that one of the members of the San Francisco 8, Richard Brown, and as well as Hillary Clinton and Eric Holder will be making presentations in Geneva at the UN about human rights violations dealing with the United States government. So keep you guys' eyes open. You know, y'all already know how it is in Oakland. If it don't go our way, y'all will probably see it on the front page of the newspaper, not because they covered it the way they wanted to cover it, but because we probably tore up downtown. So, you know, just make sure y'all don't get twisted in supporting the state's position, because some people would be like, well, the rebellions didn't work, and that's not true. You know, the rebellions that actually went down, that some people euphemistically call riots, did work. That's the, you know, the mayor, Ron Dellums, hadn't even made a statement about Oscar Grant being killed until the first rebellion was going down. He didn't even call for an indictment until the eve of the second rebellion. They didn't even investigate this case federally, which is on camera, until after the fourth rebellion. So you tell me if the government is telling us that rebellions work. So that's what's going on in Oakland. We hope that y'all could support us and, you know, definitely keep up the fight with Mumia, Imam Jamil Alameen, Matulu Shakur, San Francisco 8, Angola 3, Omaha 2, Queens 2, and so many others. The Move 9, Jamil Alameen, and so many others. Sundiata, Sekou, and so many others, you know. We don't want to just discriminate, because to some extent, everybody is a political prisoner because there's political circumstances that put us locked down. So what the POCC's call is, what's the call? You know, we're going to say free them all. What's the call? Free them all. Y'all don't even sound like y'all serious. I know y'all was at work today, but come on, let's try this. You know, act like y'all rooting for the Lakers. I'm in New York. Act like y'all rooting for one of them sports teams. What's the call? There we go. Thank y'all.
Thank you for inviting our organization here. As you know, I'm sure you're disappointed that Viola couldn't be here, and I'm here. But we're having a fundraiser tonight for the Freedom Party. Charles Barron's running for governor, and we're trying to do all that we can before November 2nd to get the word out, raise the funds, and do what we have to do to get a party status. As you all know, just to give a brief update on the Freedom Party stuff is this. We were supposed to get 15,000 signatures in order to become a part, in order to get on the ballot, we got 43,000 signatures. So that was a major, major victory for us. And now that we got those signatures, we're on the ballot, now we have to get 50,000 votes to become a party. So we are redoubling our efforts and getting people out in the street and raising the funds and doing what we have to do. So Viola's at the fundraiser and everyone else, and we'll hope that's successful tonight. And I hope to do what I can to represent our organization tonight here. We have always been in a struggle around political prisoners and prisoners of war in terms of black political prisoners and all political prisoners in the United States. The December 12th movement began in our international efforts on the issue of political prisoners at the United Nations. And we've been in the United Nations working on human rights issues since 1989, and we're still there. But what we're talking about now is the rise of fascism. And we call it fascism, and not that this is something new, but it intensifies at different times in different conditions. And right now, the rise of fascism is intensifying. And as an organization, we understand where that comes from and how it develops and what it does to people and families and organizations. Because before we were the December 12th movement, many of the leadership in our organization, Viola Plummer, Omawale Clay, Roger Wareham, Colette Peen, and others were arrested and incarcerated on some trumped up charges by the FBI, and went through a trial, and they were called the New York 8 at that time. And that's when we met Brother Sadiq at that time during the trial. It was a very trying time, and it's when you can tell the people who are with you on principle and the people who are just hangers on, because when stuff gets rough like that, you know who's going to be in it for the long run. And so that's, I wanted to start off with that because I wanted people to understand that we have a personal history around just the attack by the state. And given what's going on now with what happened in the Midwest a couple of weeks ago in terms of the FBI raids that went on in Wisconsin and Illinois and in Minnesota, that these are tests to our principles and whether we're steeled in our convictions on our politics and whether we're talking stuff or really walking stuff. You know what I mean? So people will find out when things like this go down. And one of the things that we took up during the New York 8 trial, I wasn't there, but that was before I joined December 12th, but one of the principal things stands that they took is that they would not collaborate with the grand jury. And many of their families and friends and people who were in the movement who didn't get arrested were accosted and made to or intimidated into trying to testify against or just testify to the grand jury. And the grand jury is a secret kind of process. Like nobody knows what goes on in there. So they can do anything to you. So the people who were committed, who understood what we were doing, and the fact that we were fighting against police brutality and fighting against police terrorism in our communities and oppression and fighting for human rights of Black and Latino people, they took a position that they were not going to testify. And, and that's the position that we're taking around this whole resurgence of the FBI coming into our organizations or coming into our mobilization efforts. Because that is a way to separate us from the people in the street. You know, that's a way to divide and conquer us as a people. And we can't stand by or be intimidated by that process. Because one of the things that we learned in that process, and those of us who came in after that learned, that you can go to jail like Mumia and Matulu and Sekou Odinga and everybody who went to jail, 60, 70-year bits on stuff. But if the people did not testify in that grand jury, they probably wouldn't have got any time. Because once you get into that process, you are in their game. You know what I mean? So we have to understand that we have to start fighting from the beginning. And you can't take a position that, oh, I don't know nothing. I'll tell them whatever because I don't know nothing. But they'll take whatever you do and twist it and turn it, shift it around. Next thing you know, your friends are in jail for 50, 60 years. So, I mean, there's a penalty for not testifying. Everybody knows, or most people know, that if you don't testify, that you will probably be in jail for the duration of the grand jury or until the trial is over, but that's a maximum of 18 months. The maximum time you can spend is 18 months. So the thing is 18 months or 60, 70 years. You decide, you know what I mean? So, I mean, those are the kind of real hard decisions that people have to make. And when we're in this struggle, those are the kinds of decisions that we have to make. And, those people in our organization, eventually during that whole trial of the New York 8, we took it as our position is we have to win people over. We have to win people over to the side of the vanguard. We have to win the masses over. So wherever we are, even if we're on trial, the masses is the jury. So we have to win them over to our side. And that's what happened, and we were acquitted of all charges in that case of New York 8. Yeah. And frankly, the people who resisted the grand jury spent more time in prison than the people who were on trial. You know what I mean? But those people are respected and honored as political prisoners because they stood up for their political principles. You know what I mean? And we honor and respect them for life and death. But the thing about fascism comes up when we have an economic crisis in our community. And what's happening now is a very severe economic crisis in the United States. And whenever these kind of things happen, they always start to attack those people, number one, who oppose the United States government's foreign policy. Because one of the things that they do in order to try to energize the economic base is to start these different wars and interventions and stuff all over the world. So that can generate the military-industrial complex or, the different businesses and stuff. They want the oil and all the resources. They got to get some money from somewhere. And they don't care if millions of people die. The bottom line is they want some money, they want some profit. So that's what they do, So we're in the middle of an economic crisis, and those people, like many of us who are against the foreign policy of the United States, against the war in Afghanistan, against the war in Iraq, against all these interventions, we are targeted so that they separate us from the people. And they make the people make those hard decisions, in terms of whether or not they will participate in our demise and our division of us from the people, or they'll stand with us. So we have to understand that that's what's going on now. And and this has happened over and over, and the material basis of this fascism is those